Hello, good morning Primary 2. Are you ready to start our English lesson for today? Today we are going to discuss about asking for the place where someone is working. Last week we have discussed about how to ask the occupation of someone. So today we are going to discuss about how to ask the place for where someone is working. Alright, let's start. If we want to ask about the place where someone is working, we can use the following pattern. We can use where plus do or does plus the subject plus work. After that, if we want to answer the question, we can use subject plus work or works plus the place where someone is working. Now, the question is when we can use do or does? We can use do if the subjects are you, they, your parents, your sisters, auntie and Dimas, or your friends. So we have to use do. It means if the subjects are more than one, we have to use do. Now the question is when we can use does? We need to use does if the subject is only one, like she, he, Desi, Dini, Doni, your sister, your brother, your mother, or your father. Yeah, we have to use does. So we have to remember that does is only for one subject. But if there are more than one subject, we have to use do. Now the other question is when we can use work and works. In here, we have to use work if the subjects are more than one, include I. Yeah, I, you, they, your parents, your sisters, auntie and Dimas, or your friends. We have to use work. So we have to remember that if the subjects are more than one, we have to use work. Now, if the subject is only one, we have to use works. For example, she, he, Desi, Dini, Doni, your sister, your brother, your mother, or your father. It means only one, so we have to use works. Remember, works it's only for one subject. Okay, now let's see the examples here. For the first example, where do you work? In here we have to use do because the subject is you. Where do you work? I work in a school. In this subject or in this question, the subject is you. That's why in the answer we have to use I as the subject. I work in a school. We have to use work because the subject is I. Okay, now the second example. Where do your friends work? In here, the subjects are your friends more than one. So it means we have to use do. In the answer, we can say they work in the hospital. The subject that we can use is they. Yeah. After that, we have to put work. They work in the hospital. Now let's see the third example. The third example is where do your parents work? In here, your parents means more than one, so that's why we have to use do. In the answer, we can say they work in the hospital. We have to use they because they refers to your parents more than one. That's why we have to use work also. They work in the hospital. Alright, now let's see the fourth example. Where do auntie and Dimas work? In here, auntie and Dimas are more than one. That's why we have to use do. In the answer, we can say they work in the school. They in here refers to auntie and Dimas. After that, we need to put work because the subject is they. They work in the school. It means they are the teacher. Okay, the next example. Where does your mother work? She works in an office. In here, the subject is your mother, so that's why we have to use does. In the answer, we have to use the subject she because it refers to your mother. She works, we have to put as she works in an office. We have to use works because the subject is only one, she. Now we move to the sixth example. Where does your sister work? She works in a kitchen. In here, in this question, the subject is your sister, so that's why we have to use does. And in the answer, we have to use she, that refers to your sister. After that, we need to put works because the subject is only one. After that, the place. She works in the kitchen. Number 7. Where does your brother work? He works in an animal hospital. In here, we have to use does because the subject is your brother, only one. That's why in the answer also we have to use he. He works in an animal hospital. We have to use works because the subject is he. Okay, the last one. Where does Daisy work? Daisy works in an office. In here, the subject is Daisy, so we have to use does. Where does Daisy work? Daisy works in an office. We have to use as in the answer, works. Daisy works in an office because the subject is only one, Daisy. Alright everyone, I think that's all from Miss Lia today about how to ask for the place where someone is working. Thank you so much for your time and see you in the next video. That's all. Bye bye.